Pisces. Hello, hello, hello. Hope you're having a beautiful Venus day, beautiful Friday night. Thank you for joining me. My name is Nura. I'm an astrologer. I focus on intuitive and integrative astrology as a tool for healing, grounding, and practical strategy in all areas of your life. So thank you so much for popping in. It's so good to see some names, some friendly faces. So it's such an honor to spend this time with you. I know there's a million things you could be doing, but you're choosing to lean into yourself and your healing. So tonight we'll be diving into astrology and healing and really where the two meet and are in fact one practice, or at least they can be. So that's how I use them. So it's an honor, of course, to be part of the Spirit and Spark community. And so if you haven't yet seen what I do with Spirit and Spark, you can check out the readings and the workshops that I offer there at spiritandspark.com. And you'll see a link somewhere connected to this video. If you're watching on Instagram, you can see the link in the bio there. If you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook, I know that the links are going to be posted somewhere around. So you can find out more at spiritandspark.com. And so I have some readings there and some workshops. So hello, hello, hello. Where are you tuning in from? Feel free to drop some comments into the chat so I know who's here with me. Hello. So what is feeling most alive for you here and now in this moment? And that's a lot about what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be diving into past, future, and then really bringing it into the present. Also, this is a great opportunity if you know a friend who loves astrology and who could use some astro healing strategy and support, to send them this link or invite them, get them over here. The more the merrier. Amazing. We have some people coming in from, it looks like Roseau, Minnesota. I hope I'm saying that right. Chicago, San Francisco, Minnesota. I love it. Is it still really cold up there? Salt Lake, New Mexico. Amazing. Vegas. I love it. Thank you for being here with me. Okay, so I am so passionate about using astrology for healing. There's a lot of ways you can use astrology, right? Like we can use it to get really, really in our heads and try to understand these big cosmic whys of the universe. And I personally really enjoy that too. But the way that I found astrology to be most useful for me is to really ground this cosmic wisdom into our everyday lives. So for what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be looking at some times and dates and transits. So you'll want to grab your calendar or a planner if you have a daily planner to look back at it, or sometimes you have it on your phone, calendar, whatever it is, and a journal. So this way you can be making some observation, correlation. Oh gosh, 25 below. I can only imagine. Thank you for holding down the light grid in 25 below weather. Thank you. We appreciate you. Okay, so we are going to be meeting every Friday at this time, so 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. So another way to call what we'll be doing is Astro Recapitulation. So it's basically looking back at what brought us to this moment in time and then offering forgiveness to ourselves. So this is where the healing comes in, really integrating the lessons that the previous transits brought up within us. So this helps us to be really present with where we are. We'll look at the themes that came up the prior week, what was activated through the transits, and then I'll guide you with some journaling questions that you can ask yourself. I'll try to give you enough time to, at least be able to come up with a couple words to be able to respond in your journal so that you can do some integrating while we're present, but you might also end up wanting to come back and re-listen to the replay. So first we'll go back in time, and then we will look at the coming week from the lens of your creative healing journey. Okay, so thank you for being here. I am so excited to share this work with you. So the reason recapitulation is so important for healing is that we tend to leave our energy behind wherever we go, with whoever we speak to, whatever situations we find ourselves in. And this can really drain our energy and take away from living and creating in the now. So a lot of times this just happens unconsciously, right? And it can build up creative blocks within. So almost every school of thought around healing recommends recapitulation as a practice to go back and remember the story of your life, perhaps a new way to look at it. Maybe to reclaim the narrative or heal the story or do the necessary forgiveness work and emotional processing and really call back all the parts of yourself that are left somewhere in the past. So you can even do that energetically right now. And just think about this past week. Think about all the places you went, all the things that you did, and just start to call them all back to you. Maybe imagine them coming into a golden ball of light above the crown, and maybe you ask for Great Spirit to send some healing, and really just call all your energy back, bless it, love it, thank it, and then allow it to pour back into you. So it's so helpful to do this with astrology because recapitulation and healing with that as a tool is supportive no matter what. But where astrology becomes really useful is that we can look at the themes that come up around certain energies that we've been working with, and it gives us a name. It gives us a tether to the cyclical rhythms. And this can help us to prepare for when we will likely meet similar events and energies again in the future. And hopefully, if we're doing this work really consciously, hopefully from a more healed, clear perspective. So since 95% of the decisions that we make in our daily life come from the subconscious, it's so easy to find ourselves repeating the same dynamics over and over and over again and not really knowing why, despite our conscious desire to change, right? Like, does this resonate? Is this part of your experience? I know it is for me. And that's why I've really been able to gain so much from this practice. And I hope to share it with you. So when we do astro recapitulation work and we start with small increments of time, like the past week, it makes it a more natural part of our reflective process, and it becomes a habit that can support you immensely in whatever type of healing or integration journey you're on. So how does all of this sound to you? Have you ever done any recapitulation work? I'd love to hear from you. Also, is anybody totally confused about what I'm talking about when I say recapitulation? Feel free to ask questions. I'm going to dive into more of the transits any moment, but I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. All right. Awesome. Okay, so I believe we are all on a creative healing journey of some kind. That we're all here in some way, shape, or form reclaiming our power, realizing that we are the creators of our own lives. Thank you. Thank you for confirming. We are the creators of our own lives. And I do believe that we are immensely divinely guided on this journey. And that it really is a co-creation, right, between us and spirit and us and other beings. But that in order for us to hold up our end of the bargain, we need to be clear in what we're deciding and what we're creating and why. And so this is how we become the masters of our own creation, holding up our end of the agreement in our co-creating with God, Goddess, Source, the divine, however you name the great mystery. I see the planets as emissaries for divine timing. And we can resist all we want, right? We can resist those, those Saturn transits, or we can resist the Pluto squares, right? We can resist it all we want. But when the planets come calling for you to look at what they're bringing, you can't really say no, right? Not without a great deal of suffering, right? What you resist persists. So I believe the planets and the astral realms are a concrete way to connect with the seemingly abstract sides of our soul level creative journeys. So they're guides for timing. The planets are guides for timing. And they offer us reminders of what we came here to do, why, how, and when. So all of that was really just an intro to get us into the headspace of what we're going to be doing here today. So we're going to dive now into the transits of the past week and then the upcoming transits for the week ahead. So you can really feel into where you're currently situated and what energies are moving through your life. And we're just going to go through the week day by day. Some days they'll cluster together because they have similar energy. From last weekend to now, we'll look primarily at what the sun and moon and personal planets are doing, with the outer planets as the longer term backdrop that you'll hear me refer to often over the coming weeks, since they stay the same for a lot longer. So let me know in the comments, what was the energy that you felt last week? What came up for you? So let's look at what was going on last weekend, Saturday and Sunday, February 5th and 6th. So we had the Sun conjunct Saturn. This is where we come in with some heavy energy around personal responsibility, making sure our everyday purpose is aligned. So we think Saturn alignment. We want to be aligned with our deep soul, karma, and dharma. So what we're really committed to building in this life. And so that can often feel pretty heavy, depending on how you connect with Saturn energy and where you have Aquarius in your chart. And this will add more flavor to what you experience, depending on where this is situated for you. But I want you to feel into how you've been connecting more with your purpose, your soul commitments, your karma, your dharma. So this was a really big energy last week. And Saturn shows us the promises that we made before we incarnated as to how we would make the world a better place. So by transit, Saturn is showing us where to focus and concentrate on refining in order to have a clearer structure and foundation for what we're building. And I just noticed myself, like I started doing this with my hands. And this is actually a Saturnian Mudra. It's for concentration if you bring all the tips of your fingers together. And I just found myself naturally doing that while I was talking about Saturn. So that's really interesting. So Saturn asks us to get really clear, really practical. And with the Sun, this is shining the light on what brings the right practical action into our field of view, even if it feels uncomfortable for a minute, maybe a couple days. So, okay. So felt like you finally emerged from a sluggish space. Amazing. That's wonderful. That's wonderful to hear. I too felt that. I felt that especially probably around the time that Mercury shifted out of the retrograde period, which he's still in the post-shadow phase of now, and I'm going to get to that in a moment. But yeah, there was a heavy brain fog, and it made me really, really tired. And then I noticed for myself, like if I ever start to feel really tired, I start to get into this insecurity place or this like self-judgment place because of always wanting to be producing. And if I'm just tired and just not in the mood to produce, it's always an opportunity, I know, for me to just take my baby steps and just do the little things that I can do to stay in alignment, stay dedicated, and stay committed. Okay, so let's tune into, so the Lilith Trinity has been coming up really, really strong. So we have had the moon in the late degrees of Aries last week into the early degrees of Taurus, conjunct asteroid Lilith. And so Lilith is that divine feminine, dark goddess, shadow work. So asteroid Lilith in Taurus is inviting us into reclamation of our power. Another way to say this might be rewilding, according to our primal desires, our raw passions, our innate embodied expression of life, and releasing any guilt or shame around what we value with that Taurus energy. Like, what do you value? How do you acquire resources? So these might be some journal questions for you. What do you value? How do you acquire resources? How do you value yourself? How do you see yourself? You might have had something come up around reclaiming your wildness and integrating that into your personality structure in some way. And that's really the invitation. Does this come up for anybody? And so I'll just reiterate that question. How does reconnecting with your authentic wild self support the work you're doing out in the world? If we bring in that Saturn energy and then the rewilding, well, how do they connect, right? How does that ability to stay aligned and connected with what we're here to do? Ooh, yes. Women Who Run with the Wolves by Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes. That is one of my favorite books, top 5 for sure. I think that everybody who's on any path of any sort of embodiment healing journey needs to read that book for sure. It's so potent in reclaiming shadow and doing any sort of integration healing work. Whether you're on a journey of connecting with the divine feminine, divine masculine, sacred union, or any sort of spiritual healing, that's such an amazing book for that. Okay, so on Monday and Tuesday, let's move on. I can spend a lot of time talking about that Lilith and Saturn for sure, but I want to make sure I keep this to 30 minutes for you all, because I know I can get lost in the talking and the story. So Monday and Tuesday, we had the moon in Taurus connected with Uranus in Taurus. And so Uranus is the great liberator. And then the moon met up with the North Node in Taurus. And so the North Node is very much our path forward. So this day, Monday and Tuesday, these days were days for acceleration. And whenever we have the moon conjunct the North Node, it's almost like we're getting this preview of the energy that we're going to see during eclipses, because the eclipse seasons every year are always happening around the North and South Node. They're showing us, well, this is what we're releasing from the past, and this is what we're integrating for the future. So that Monday and Tuesday was a day for major acceleration, particularly around our future goals, and again, around how we are using our resources. So sometimes with the North Node, it can be asking us to step outside of our comfort zone. And that can be stepping outside our comfort zone around how we're pulling in resources, how we're making money or not making money. What's the frequency of our prosperity journey? So, question to journal on for this past Monday and Tuesday. Did something pick up speed for you? Was there something that came up this past week that you recognized as like, oh, this is a little bit uncomfortable, but I can see how if I just allow myself to sit with it and dive into it, that this could actually be very supportive in moving toward my future goals. And so you can be comparing the things that you actually did. If you're like me, I write down all the things that I do either in my journal or in my calendar, even if it's like a happy face. It's like, oh, I was really happy today, or oh, today was kind of a hard day. I recommend even just getting down to the emoji status if that's the level of writing that you like to do. Obviously, the more detail is going to help you even more in your recapitulation journey, but just having something that is logging your experience. And so that way you can go back and look at how this applies with the astrology. Okay, so Wednesday and Thursday, we had Moon in Gemini, which is the sign of the twins. So that also brings up duality, coming together with Black Moon Lilith. And so again, we're having another Lilith experience. And these are going to be featuring very prominently this year in a lot of the transits. So the Lilith, asteroid Lilith, really demonstrates what we are working to reclaim and heal. And often we can feel shy or timid around the energy where Black Moon Lilith is embodying. So this tends to look like something that we're censoring in ourselves because we felt rejected in the past. And so in the energy of Gemini, this could look like being rejected for speaking our truth and what we've made it mean about who we are. It's like, if did somebody disagree with us and then now we're just going to like not talk about that thing again because they didn't like what we said, right? So that's Gemini. Gemini tends to invite disagreement because Gemini is really here on a journey of having conscious conversations and being able to come into that holistic energy of integrating duality. Okay, so a journal prompt for you. What truth have you been needing to speak, and to who and how? What truth have you been needing to speak, to who and how? Are there any skills you need to develop around this? And where can you receive support? Oh, I love this. I love what's coming in on the chat here. To trust, I do not need to know everything. Whew. Absolutely. That's actually going to come up really prominently in Pisces season. I have a few mantras for Pisces season that I'll share, which actually leads us into today, this beautiful Venus day, Friday, February 11th. We have Mercury, the planet of communication, conjunct Pluto. So they're just coming together in the sky, conjunct Pluto, the planet of transformation, in Capricorn. So this is our communication style joining with our deep soul transformation process. So even just calling in those words around the energy of today, what is coming up for you today around communicating with your deep self? This might look like communication around taking responsibility and authority for your own life and your choices. And you're here watching this, whether live or on the replay. So I know you're ready to do this deep transformational work. I know you've probably already been in it. So congratulations for really taking authorship of your life and taking responsibility for your own healing journey, because I really believe that the more of us do this, the more healed the whole world will be. It's like what you heal and clear for yourself, you heal and clear for the world. So it's so needed. And I have so much immense admiration and respect for you doing this work. So I'm curious, how does all of this so far resonate with what you experienced last week? Does anything really stand out to you around the transits? This past week really brought up a lot of energy around connecting with the dark feminine, or our inner wild selves, might be another way to say that. Really asking us to do our shadow work and reclaim our innate birthright of self-authorship and authenticity. Really being true to ourselves in a way that serves our work in the world. So just take a moment to feel into how that might be emerging for you right now, and just how this is an invitation for deeper healing and clearing. And my hope is that this is coming to, of course, your conscious mind, but even if you have no idea what I'm talking about, even if you're not an astrologer, you don't have an intention of becoming an astrologer, and you're just here because it said healing, awesome. Really know and trust that these are universal archetypal concepts and structures, that they are being understood by your subconscious mind. And you're here for a reason. Okay, so what would you add to this based on your personal experience? What are some keywords of themes you really felt this past week? And has anything yet been stirred up in sharing about these themes? So feel free to drop any thoughts you want to share in the comments, whether you're listening live or on the replay, and I'll be sure to check them out over the next couple days, because we're going to be here again next week doing this all over again. So it'll be really nice to get to feel into how you can use this in an ongoing sense and create a habit out of it. Because again, the reason recapitulation is so important is that it helps us to sort out the mental knots around our experience. Because we're living such a fast-paced life, so much is happening all the time. And that if they say that, one of the best spiritual practices that you can do is every night before you go to bed, actually trace your day backwards. Like, what did you do all day? What happened? Who did you talk to? How did you feel? So I recommend in the morning, kind of doing like your creative visualization, because you're thinking about what's going to happen for the day, like what you hope to happen. But then at the end of the day, if you have this available, if you can make this available in your schedule, write down what happened, write down your feelings. If you have access to this, write down where the moon was. And if you know your chart, where is it showing up in your chart? What's being activated in your chart? And then eventually you'll start to be able to trace these threads through your life. And it'll help you from getting stuck in similar places or getting stagnant in something. Because it's like if we don't process what's coming into the subconscious, it just gets stuck in there. Okay. So, ultimately, we'll want to do this Astro Recapitulation for everything we've ever experienced so far in our lives. And this is a big process. This is something I offer actually in my Astro Initiation program, so a longer program. But here in this space that we're going to be doing every week, we can get this practice down week by week. And hopefully it makes your general healing and recapitulation practice easier, using your transits and relating them to what's going on in your life. Okay, so with these final few minutes, we're going to feel into this coming week. And I won't go as deep into them because you'll hear me repeat some of these themes next week when we're talking about them from the recapitulation sense. But I'll give you a sneak preview so that you can see, well, what do you get to look forward to, and what do you get to sort of creatively visualize? And it can be nice to know what's coming up ahead. Make some plans, make some strategies around it, and then at the end of the week, go back and evaluate. Well, did I accomplish what I set out to do? And then is there healing around that? What else came up? These cosmic surprises that grace us daily, the unexpected. Okay, so you can already start to feel into what are you hoping to create for next week? And also energetically speaking, if you're honing in your intuitive skill building, what are you psychically feeling is going to be coming up for you next week? So over this weekend, I'm recording this Friday, but Saturday and Sunday, so February 12th and 13th, we have the moon in Cancer, and she will oppose all of the Capricorn planets, that being Mars, our action language, Venus, our love language, Vesta, our path of devotion, Pluto, our transformative healing planet, and then Mercury, our planet of communication. So the moon in Cancer, really bringing up the tension between home and work-life balance, or inner and outer life balance. There's also a theme of staying well nourished, because Cancer rules the stomach, and staying balanced in our bodies, while we might also feel realistically just very pulled and stretched in our outer world commitments with this Capricorn stellium that we're working with long term. So there's a need to keep asking ourselves. This will be really, really good to journal on and to consider with what you're creating for this coming week. Is what you're doing out in the world also nourishing to your soul? Is what you're doing out in the world also nourishing to your soul? If not, how can you make it more soul fulfilling? This doesn't mean, you need to go and tower card your life and completely transform and completely change it, although that's possible. But it could be as simple as bringing in more breath into your daily life, or bringing in more slowness in how you're moving and walking through the world. So generally, this weekend is great for rest and self-care, if you're able to prioritize that in your schedule, and release any guilt that comes up around self-care. I have a thing for myself that I do every week. It's called Self-Care Sundays. I've been doing this for a couple years now, especially since I had my daughter. I was like, I need to prioritize my self-care time. If not, it's going to be the first thing to go. So the moon in Cancer reminds you, self-care is vital. It's what keeps you vital and able to do your work out in the world. So self-care Sundays, feel free to use that in your life if that resonates with you. So it's a whole thing. I know for myself, I need a constant commitment like this. And that's also very Capricorn energy. Like, what are you committed to? And are you dedicated to repeating it and creating a habit like this that helps you to feel really good and really loving yourself? Speaking of love, if we move on to the next day, Monday, February 14th, Valentine's Day, if you celebrate this holiday, we have some big energy shifts coming in, with Mercury entering Aquarius, which is actually the sign of platonic love, like human love. And then it's also going to be opposed by the moon in Leo. So this Leo Aquarius is the axis of creativity and self-expression. And then with Mercury still in the post-retrograde shadow phase, we might still be feeling a bit of confusion around what's going on in the world. We might still be feeling that brain fog and what we want to create out in our communities. So it might be a good opportunity for you to invite your creative side out to play with others. This might really support you in bringing more clarity. Yes, being a mom definitely makes self-care hard. Self-care Sundays, it's a whole thing. You got to do it. Okay, so that journal prompt, where can you invite your creative self out to play with others and see what new insights and creative energy is sparked from that space with that Aquarius Leo opposition? Then Tuesday, Wednesday, we'll be feeling some strong relational focus with Mars and Venus conjunct in Capricorn. This is actually huge. They're actually spending about 4 months, starting at the beginning of this year through to about April, within orb of conjunction. So Mars, Venus being our action language, our desire nature, our love language, meeting in the sign of Capricorn, which is all about personal responsibility in love, healthy boundaries. This is huge. We can actually come to some really beautiful revamping, revitalizing around what it means to fully embody the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine within ourselves. We all carry both. And when they come together in sacred union, this is when we're really able to create completely. So this is happening exact February 16th, and that will also be the same day as the full moon in Leo. So expect Tuesday and Wednesday, the energy to be really big. So what can you be almost strategizing around these energies? They're great times, really, especially with the full moon, to connect with people, connect out with your community, especially with the energy of Leo and Aquarius being so elevated. This is a great time to be doing creative collaboration with people, and then really looking at what gets to be healed around this energy, especially if that feels awkward, right? It's been an awkward couple of years when it comes to being out in the world. So this might be another opportunity to ask yourself, how can you bring more of your heart into the human love, like the platonic love level, rather than even just romantic love, but bringing your heart to all human interactions, no matter if you even know them or not. That's kind of the Aquarius energy. It connects us to the whole human journey, the global sisterhood, the global brotherhood, the global community. So that's a big energy midweek. Okay, and then next Friday, this is where we will have the sun entering Pisces. And so this will be a good time to lean into what wants to be created from a more internal spiritual awakening space. This will bring the potential for a lot of life-giving enchantment and spiritual contemplation energy. And so this will also be a season of some pretty deep healing, especially if you're working through any level of addictions or any tendencies toward escapism. So Pisces being a dual sign shows us the duality of human nature, also the duality of being a human or being a soul or a spirit in a human body. So this will be a season of exploring all of that. And if you are able to access new facets of your imagination, you will be served immensely. Okay, so that's as much as I'll share about what's coming up next week, because we're going to be here again next Friday, and I'll be kind of going backwards, going back in time to tune into, well, how can you sort of recap that and apply it to your healing journey? So with the energy coming in this week ahead, how can you connect with your own inner lover? That's a big theme this week. Your own relationship needs and desires. How can you connect more with the human family? How can you connect more with your imagination? Okay, so just to ground us just back into our bodies, because I know we just brought in a lot of information, a lot of left brain considerations. So let's take a couple deep breaths in through the nose and open mouth, exhale. One more time. Maybe this time we actually lift our arms up. Inhale, arms lift up. You can look overhead, gaze following the hands, and exhale, arms come down. This is also known as rainbow breath. It's like you're chasing a rainbow with your arms. I used to do this for kids yoga. It's so fun. I love it. Inhale, arms coming up, look up. And exhale, arms coming down. You can shake out your hands. Roll your shoulders down your back. Maybe give yourself some twists. Okay. Thank you so much for being here with me. So, coming back into the now. Trust that all the information shared tonight will reach the parts of you that needed to hear it. You don't need to grasp at anything that you didn't fully understand in case astrology is a new language to you. You can also re-listen to this live stream if you want to connect more with the information. And if you're watching after the live stream, feel free to drop your comments and reflections too, and I'll stay updated over this coming week. And I'd love to see you again next week, and we'll continue our Astro Recapitulation healing journey. So we'll be here the same time every Friday, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. So I hope to see you next week. I hope this helped you to reflect on your creative healing process, and I hope you create a beautiful week ahead. Mwah. See you next time.